We're good. Good. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. We're in the Brecksville Broadview Heights Education Center, 6638 Mill Road, Brecksville, Ohio. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as an indicated agenda item. Following the regular meeting, the board will meet in executive session for the consideration of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official per Ohio Revised Code 121.22, Item A. This meeting will be live streamed via YouTube and will also be recorded for later viewing. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel where all recordings are posted. Item 1B, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1C, roll call.
Mrs. Gaelick,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Ms. O'Mara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes. Moving on to item 2, President's announcements. I don't have much other than welcome back, and I hope we all have a great year this year. And I guess we'll hear later on how the first day of school went. So we'll move on to item 3, board appointments. Cuyahoga Valley Career Center report. I forgot to reach out to Rachel. So stay tuned till next month. OSBA Legislative Liaison.
No updates.
No updates. Okay, moving on to item 4, Superintendent Committees. Financial Liaison Audit Committee, Mark and Tish. The audit is in progress now, so
Yeah.
more to come.
YAP is coming back in September and financial audit is coming out for the first time next week. They're a little short staffed at the moment at the Auditor of State's office. So we're just hoping that they can move along.
Okay. Permanent Improvement Committee, Ava and myself. Nothing new. We had a bunch of updates last month. Stay tuned. Board Policy Committee, Ellen and Lisa.
No updates. Yeah.
We should be getting an update pretty soon from Neola, so that thrilling reading will be coming soon.
Transportation Appeals Committee, myself, as of today, day 1 of school, no appeals. Hopefully the trend continues. Safety and Security Meeting Report, Ava and Ellen.
We had, the district had a Safety and Security Committee meeting on August the 9th. And the biggest chunk of time that was taken up was to do with the strategic information that Brian had. And he presented a video that we had already seen as a board and that the staff will get shared with them as well. And this company is the company that is pretty much overseeing the entire security process for all of the school buildings. And so we were talking about the trainings that would be taking place for all staff members. And by all staff members, we mean everyone, all the service personnel, all of the staff members in the classroom, the board personnel as well. And there was going to be training for the beginning of the school year on August 15th for all of the staff. And one of the things that was brought up was the fact that this is kind of like ground zero for the communication piece of Centegix. And there are areas that the buses, because the bus drivers have the badges as well, that will not be able to access the frequency. And so they go ahead and call police, radio it in, and then the communication will continue in that way. So that was a concern. And in terms of, I know that at the very beginning when this was all introduced to the community. We were hoping to get everything off the ground by the time school started, but I know that they are checking boxes and being very diligent about how everything is being implemented. And so within the beginning of September, I believe, is what Brian had said would be the time in terms of getting everybody on board. In terms of additional issue, lanyards. Apparently the badges are going to be given to us as part of the strategic plan, but not the lanyards. And so I know you were looking for lanyards. And in terms of miscellaneous items, House Bill 47 requires that AEDs, of course, are present in all of the school buildings as well as on the stadium grounds. And so there was a discussion regarding how that would take place, how exposed such a unit would be in terms of access for vandalism. But apparently after some discussion, it was determined that there really is not a worry about that. It seems that the public is pretty aware that that's something that is a critical unit. Do I have that right, Brian? And so we went ahead with checking, the nurses would be checking the AED units. There was a middle school generator test on Monday, August the 12th, and it was determined that the server room needed to be hooked up to the generator so that we don't lose the internet access. And so that would be critical as well. And then the threat assessment teams were established with Bob Magyar. We're in year 2 of a 3-year cycle, and we will be having training refreshers online full day, probably through Public School Works. And also we have, in terms of our emergency management plan, there's a requirement that the staff goes through a tabletop training. So that's going to be taking place sometime around October, and Brian would give us an idea of when that's going to happen. That's it.
Very good. Moving on to schools foundation report, Tish.
Yeah, just a couple items. The Schools Foundation are back to their regular meetings. They met last week and they'll meet, monthly for the remainder of the year. They are excited to welcome. They voted on a new member. Mr. Keith Richardson was voted on and accepted as a new member for the Schools Foundation. So they're excited to welcome him. And then they are in the beginning stages of reviewing and strategically looking at how to organize their documentation and update it, including their bylaws and their communications to our community to increase awareness about the organization and what it does. So that's kind of what they're up to and starting this month.
Great. Sustainability Committee, Ellen and Ava.
There's going to be a presentation at the meeting about a really exciting new initiative that the school district is going to get started on very quickly. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. It's coming up very shortly. PSO report, Lisa.
PSO hasn't had their regular meeting yet, but I did want to share just some thank yous to PSO volunteers who have been working over the summer to kind of make our welcome back very nice for our students and staff. At the high school level, the high school PSO organized the annual Paint Your Parking Space. So if you've driven up by the high school, you can see all the beautiful, colorful spots. I know they had some troubles with weather, but they were able to get it all done. They also had a welcome back breakfast for the staff this morning. The middle school, they provided breakfast for the staff on Monday morning. And I think they also painted the walls of the middle school cafeteria, and that was paid for through the Middle School Gifts and Goals program. At the elementary school, they helped organize volunteers for kindergarten phase-in days and for the first day of school to help students find their classrooms. They also organized a popsicle truck for the staff on Monday. So I think everyone enjoyed that. PSO Council helped provide and serve lunch for staff on convocation last Thursday. And the next PSO Council meeting is going to be Thursday, September 5th. So that'll be the first official meeting of the year. And each of the PSO units at the elementary, middle school, and high school is in the middle of their membership drive now. So if you're interested in joining the PSO, now is the time to do it. And just kind of tangential to our PSO, our athletic boosters is also selling their memberships now. And those memberships get you admission to all of our regular season games, and it helps support our student athletes and our athletic boosters.
Do we go online to join?
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have. So for PSO, you can go on, you have to join at each of the individual buildings. So you can go to, if you want to join the elementary school PSO, you can go to their website, the same as middle school PSO. You would go to their website and join. You can join online there. There's a link there. And the same with athletic boosters. You can go on the athletic boosters the Visa Athletic Boosters website, and they'll have information there, or you can reach out to Janelle Henning. She's the membership chair for athletic boosters. Thank you.
Very good. Moving on to item 5, superintendent's announcements. Turn it over to Jeff.
Yeah, well, first day of school is here. It's unique. We're having our board meeting on the night of the first day, but actually it started last week, Thursday, the 15th. Remember, we pushed the start of school back by 2 days to give 2 additional days prior to the start for staff professional development. So we started with convocation on Thursday, the 15th, and then the afternoon of the 15th, the 16th, and then Monday, Tuesday of this week, our staff was engaged in multiple different professional development opportunities. And we've surveyed the staff to see how they liked the start, how they liked or disliked the professional development opportunities, and what we can improve upon. And so far to this point, the feedback has been outstanding from the staff. I think it gives them a good lead into the year. The CKLA training, which is the new ELA K-5 curriculum that we've adopted, has had some pretty intense training. So I think now that the teachers are back, all the materials were on time, and I have to give a shout out to not only Dr. Martin, but his whole department, especially Cindy Lavoie, who helped move boxes all over the elementary building, along with our 2 teachers on assignment. They did a great job making sure things were prepared for the staff so they could come back and hit the ground running. So all of that was exciting, but really today was the exciting day when the buses are rolling around town and they literally pull into the building and the kids come pouring out, and they are excited. The teachers are excited. Our buildings and grounds were spotless. The floors never look better than on the first day of school. And, our staff, top to bottom, has done an outstanding job being ready for the start of school. And the fact that last year at this time, if you remember, we were all stressed out because Where's My Bus app wasn't working. Right, it was working this year, so that was good. And our buses were running on time today. I'm sure they were late or early to stops, which is normal the first week or two. But as far as getting the kids to school, they were on time, and getting them home, they were on time as well. So that's a huge accomplishment there. We're proud of it. But it simply is amazing just with the first day of school and the excitement in the buildings. So when you get a chance, as I've said in the past, anytime you'd like to come visit the buildings, take a tour, just give me a heads up. We can make those arrangements. Now's a great time of the year to get in there while everything is still kind of fresh and exciting before we get to the month of February, where everybody's a little bit of a drag. But we're excited. And first football game's this Friday, so there's a lot going on. And if you get a chance to stop out and see some of those things. So I can't thank the staff enough. And here at central office, once the students are back in, it's like we can kind of take a deep breath for a few moments, because everything is staffed. We had everybody in place. So it was kind of nice to see that happen today. The second item, we did have a community member reach out to us with the news that Hilton will be going offline and being demoed this calendar or this school year, asked about a final walkthrough. Well, just as a reminder, we did final walkthroughs in all 3 or 4 of the buildings when we took them offline. So we are not planning for a final walkthrough of Hilton. It has been offline and empty for a couple of years now, and it's just, I'm not going to say it's not safe, but it's just not in a condition that we want the public walking through, as well as much of the materials and items that were in the building were auctioned off or removed from the building. So there isn't much to see in there, except for some storage items that we have down there. So we will not be doing a final walkthrough of Hilton. That already happened. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. And on the Hilton topic, just to kind of give you an update of where things stand, it's going out. The bid is going out for advertising. We'll have the bid opening in October. The tentative timeline is the building will be down by spring break. if everything follows the timeline that we have set, starting here in September, that the building will be leveled by spring break. So just as a quick update, and obviously as we go through this process and accept bids, we'll be coming back to the Board of Education, but just to remind you of the timeline there. And that is all I have as far as my announcements. And the rest of the time, Craig, I will allow the presentation to happen and I'll stop talking. All right. He times me every time I talk. So, but Mr. Koss, Mrs. Voigt, maybe if you'd like to introduce our guests tonight and talk a little bit about what they're going to present to us.
At the podium, please.
At the podium.
I live?
Yep.
So we have Robert with Rust Belt Riders. We started a composting initiative in our district, and he's going to give us a little bit more information about what has been started.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Brian, for both working so hard to get this started. And thank you all for sharing your time with us this evening. My name's Robert Kurtz. I'm a worker owner at Rust Belt Riders, and I'm joined today with my colleague, Natalie Longa, as well, who's also a worker owner and a parent in the school system. So we're going to speak a little bit today about who we are as a company, the work that we do, and the partnership that we'll be rolling out here at the district. I can speak at length about the work that we do, so please just cut me off. I think it's 10 minutes that I have, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Rust Belt Riders is a worker-owned social enterprise, and our mission is to feed people, not landfills. We partner with individuals, communities, and businesses to divert food waste from the landfill. And in doing so, we help our partners avoid harmful greenhouse gas emissions. We're part of a growing number of community composters across the country, and we are very proud to be a worker co-op. So a little bit about our origins. Rust Belt Riders isn't obviously a composting company name, and the reason that we have that name is because we started this business 10 years ago riding bicycles in the Cleveland area. The co-founders, Michael and Dan, and myself were working at Spice Kitchen and Bar. And if you're familiar with that bar in Ohio City, it was a really popular one for the movement of that farm to table concept, where folks were really concerned with where their food was coming from and so sourcing it as local as possible. And so working in that environment, we saw this missing piece of the circle of like sourcing our food locally, but then still throwing food scraps out in the trash instead of getting them back into the soil systems that we were using to grow the food in the first place. So the idea was sprung from that, and we started riding our bicycles around town, picking up food scraps and bringing them to local community gardens to remediate the soil there. Fast forward to today, we now have a worker co-op of 38 professionals that are growing every day. We have a fleet of trucks, commercial vehicles, and a whole team of professionals working to divert the food waste in a much larger scale than we were 10 years ago. We're helping to build an industry here in Northeast Ohio. We think that composting is something we can do big enough, fast enough, and cheap enough to make a meaningful impact in our region environmentally. So it's a solution to a lot of issues ranging from the negative emissions associated with landfill and also creating a really wonderful workplace for folks. Composting is something you don't need a college degree to do. It's something we can train you to do in 2 weeks. And so it's something that we're really proud to be able to dream about building in a very big way. One of the issues that we are trying to solve is food waste to begin with. 40% of our food waste in the United States is wasted. So this is at the same time when more and more children are food insecure in our region. And not only is it a shame to waste food to begin with, but when food goes to a landfill, it creates methane gas, which is a very negative greenhouse gas. So before I worked at Rust Belt Riders, I was very concerned with recycling, as you should be, and where I can put all of the organic materials and how we can make sure that those get recycled. But I never thought about a banana peel or an apple core or things like that because, that's organic matter. That's going to go in the trash. That'll break down in the landfill. Not a big deal. But unfortunately, because things are so stacked and mixed with all of those things that don't break down, when organic food goes into the landfill, it festers and rots. And instead of turning back into carbon-sucking soil, it actually releases methane gas at a higher rate than it would in the natural world. And that's about 25 times as heat retentive than carbon dioxide. So carbon's a term that we're familiar with and using a lot with, thinking about our environmental impacts. Methane is 25 times as potent. So, and landfills are the third largest source of that in our country. So it's a big problem we're aiming to solve. When we waste food, we waste the water, the labor, the land, all of the energy that we put into making that food. And so that's what we're trying to recoup by diverting that food waste from the landfill. Part of the solution is to change the mindset. So a huge part of what we're doing is education, which is why partnering with schools is such a very valuable thing for us. There is no such thing as waste is a concept that we're trying to teach all of our community. So in nature, nothing's wasted. Everything's recycled and put back into the system. We're living in a closed biosphere that's called Earth. There's nothing that can leave or come in. So the concept of waste is actually just a man-made concept. It always ends up in somebody's backyard, somebody's air, somebody's water. So there's really no such thing as throwing it away. We have to think of solutions that are, cyclical and repurposing of our waste. Food scraps actually are a resource. So it's not something that we want to just toss aside and not think about, but we want to capture those food scraps and we want to use them to remediate our soils and provide resilient soil systems in our community for future generations. And so instead of sending these across state lines or finding the cheapest landfill that will take them, we want to start to change the narrative and see our food scraps as a valuable community asset. When we work with grocery stores, florists, schools, breweries, cafes, even offices. So anywhere there's food scraps that are being created, anywhere there's somebody who cares to take the initiative to divert them and do something different, there's an opportunity for us to partner. And so we've identified a huge partnership here at Brecksville Broadview Heights, both at the schools and the surrounding community. And what we're doing is building that circular economy. We're building a product as well from this. So we take those food scraps and we turn them into soil. We then sell that soil back to farmers, to plant enthusiasts, to anyone who has any soil needs. And so we're making a product here in Cleveland for Clevelanders by Clevelanders and trying to keep that all here within our region. One of the best ways to illustrate this work that we've accomplished is through our partnership with Heinen's Grocery Store. Heinen's has about 18 grocery stores in the region that are committed to buying thousands of pounds of produce from the Amish locally when they can in season. Those food scraps end up at Rust Belt Riders and we turn them into soil and then provide them back to the Amish. So they pick up our soil in these little horse and buggies. It's really awesome to see, but that's a really big full circle story that we've been proud to be partners in and creating. We do this work in a clean, timely, and community benefiting manner. Those are the tenets that our commercial hauling department stands by. And we do this in 3 different ways: through a commercial pickup system, an at-home system, and a community drop-off system. We'll be engaging in the community drop-off system and the commercial drop-off system here at the district. We're doing this right now at a time where there's no regulatory scrutiny or financial incentive to do this work. So we consider ourselves very much a coalition of the willing, folks who want to do the right thing. And we're very proud to say that Brecksville Broadview Heights is the first school district in our area to approach us and have a district-wide solution to the schools. So we're really happy to have that opportunity to work with you all. But we're also working with about 300 businesses on routes and 3,000 individuals in the area who are choosing to divert their food waste and send it to us. It's about 6.5 million pounds last year. It's really only the tip of the iceberg. But we have drop-off sites as far west as Avon Lake and as far east as Bainbridge. And 2 more coming starting today here in the district. So I'm going to talk briefly about how commercial service is going to work at the schools. We're going to do most of the work through the use of these 64-gallon bins. They look just like a garbage can, but they have our logo on them. They say no food scraps and they're green. We're going to line them with a biodegradable bag here. It's made out of corn. And we're going to switch those out every single time we come, once a week on the same day. We'll be coming on Mondays. We're going to weigh that material and we're going to log it so that you can keep track of your environmental impact. We wash those bins out every week as well to keep any sort of concerns of pests at bay. We'll be storing them in the freezer and in the refrigerator areas in the 3 schools as well. And then once they're full with the food scraps, they'll be brought back outside for us to pick up on Monday after the children are done with school. So there's no logistical issues there. Great. And then we're also partnering to have this community drop-off program. So we're going to energize the community around the school as well to be part of this work by setting up these 2 drop-off sites, one outside of this building you may have seen on your way in, and the other at the elementary school, yes. So they will have up to 4 of those 64-gallon bins. We're going to start off with 2 as we build the program. And this is a fee-for-service part. So individuals in the surrounding city will be able to join this program for $12 a month, and that will give them access to these bins. Rust Belt Riders is going to manage all of the customer service, all of the questions, all of the transportation and processing of this material. And the district has agreed to allow us to put these on your premise. And to help us market this service, to get the word out and to get more and more folks to sign up. And in doing so, we've extended a discounted service model for the district. So the more residents in the surrounding area that sign up to use our service, a discount will be extended to the district for the commercial cans at the 3 schools, up to 25%. And you can see those discounted tiers right there. We're going to send a QR code, a link that you can send out in your newsletters. We'll make some flyers that we can send home with the students if that's acceptable. But there'll be an individual sign-up form that your community will have, and we'll be able to track whoever signs up with that link and then extend that discount onto your commercial cans at the district. So working together to divert these food scraps really sets a precedent in our region, as you are the first school district that is taking on a district-wide solution to all 3 schools, which is amazing. This is a playbook that we hope that we can copy and paste and really start to make an environmental impact with the surrounding school districts. So the value of our partnership can't be understated. We're setting a precedent, but we're also showing students in action environmentally sound practices. So there's a lot of education opportunity there as well. We have an educational outreach committee as well for presentations, for assemblies and field trips and things like that. That's my presentation. Thank you all very much. I don't know if we have time for questions or.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. If there's any questions.
Comments or questions, feel free.
I have a question, unless anybody got, or a couple questions.
Yeah.
So as far as the bins that will be used in the cafeteria, and maybe this is more a question for Brian and Amy too. Is that used by our food service staff mainly, by adults, or will that be used by students?
Great question. So we talk about the waste streams in the industry as pre-consumer or post-consumer waste. Pre-consumer waste being all of that waste before an individual touches it. So things that are made in the kitchen, things that, in the prep for the food. And we're going to start there first, because that's somewhere where we feel we can succeed, because we can train staff and we can make sure that anyone using our system has been onboarded and is familiar with how it works. As the district's initiative and sustainable measures grow, we can meet the need to also take those food scraps from the students as well after they've eaten their meals. That will be for you to decide at the cadence that works for you, if you would like.
It was important for us to start with the staff because we know they could train and do it properly. We put bins like this in the cafeteria with our little guys, gals, and who knows what ends up in that can. So we have to do a lot of education. The goal would be that eventually we'd be doing it in the cafeteria as well at some
Right,
point.
okay, that's what I was wondering about, because especially like I volunteer sometimes at lunch at the elementary school, and it's like they're lucky if it goes in the trash can sometimes.
That's a neat
so-
volunteer position. You get to guard the can and sort the compost.
So, and then my other question is, so the bins that are outside for the community to pay the $12 a month, I noticed there is also a set of bins at the Brecksville Nature Center. Are there any other in this sort of nearby area that people are already using?
Those are the three that'll be most close to this community. However, folks that sign up through the system will have access to all 38 spots. So if there's forever any reason that they're on the other side of town, or, you know, they commute to have their children come to this school, they'll have access to all of the network of the 38 drop-off sites throughout.
So when people sign up for a subscription, they're just scanning our QR code. Is that kind of like there, and we get credit for it, but they don't have to come to the elementary school or the
That's
board
correct.
office to use it. They can use any. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. So as far as your reach is, if there's folks outside of, you know, the neighborhood, it's really just whoever signs up through you as a marketing partner to get the word out about our services.
And just as a comment, I can't emphasize enough how much preparation we would need to do once the children are involved, not just for the elementary schools, but middle school and high school. Once you get them on board, they really are the best of us. They're very committed to having our earth as clean as possible. But I really do think that there needs to be a curriculum that is somehow created and then rolled out in a way that makes sense.
I couldn't agree more. Some of our biggest allies are the kindergartners. They get this, and like after one presentation, they're really excited, and they usually, you know, never mess up all the way up till fourth graders, maybe a little pushback. Then you get to the high schoolers, a little jaded, but with the proper education and those assemblies that we can come and give once a year or twice a year as necessary, you know, I'm confident when the time's right, we can roll out a program that's comprehensive for all the food waste.
Just out of curiosity, those community drop-off bins, how do you manage only people with subscriptions from using them?
So when they sign up, they'll have to choose a home location so that we can get an estimate of how many people are using each location's bin. So we'll have contact as in real time with the driver as well. If they notice like this bin's getting fuller than, you know, we anticipated, then we roll out another one. Oh, yeah, and the bins are locked themselves. Yeah, so there's a 4-digit code that will only be given to the folks that sign up. So that keeps everybody out of the bins that aren't part of the program. And it's mainly to keep out contamination and, you know, making sure folks are accessing the bins that are informed on how to do it and how it works.
Right. And out of curiosity, the more volume you get, the more compost and soil you'll generate. So there's a continuous pipeline of people and organizations who want that soil, so to speak, and compost.
Yeah, so that's the engine that drives this whole thing forward is we need something to do with the compost, right? So if we do all this work of gathering these food scraps, we're diverting them from the landfill, and then we're turning them into compost. We need someone to use that compost because its environmental impacts are mostly achieved when folks use that compost to grow healthy plants, right? Because a forest is the best carbon sucking machine that there is. And so folks also receive a 10% discount on the soil products that we make from the compost. That will be extended to everyone that signs up at the district, as well as the employees of the school district as well, since we're engaging here commercially at the schools. And so if there's any initiative or partnership that we can get the word out about the soil sales itself, or use soil here on the grounds at the school for community gardens or for the beautification of the schools, that's a great way to continue to build the industry and keep things working.
Shameless plug, the elementary building's in the process of putting raised bed gardens in. So Cassie over here is already working Rust Belt Riders for some soil, I'm sure. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, and the dream is that one day maybe it would be a fair exchange, right? Like for every banana peel you give us, we can give you that back in compost. But we have to build this industry and that infrastructure right now to be able to do that. Some folks want the composting service and some people just want the soil. So we broke them up into two different businesses, Tilth Soil and Rust Belt Riders is the composting. But as it grows, then it benefits everyone in the community.
Are you guys self-sufficient financially, or is there donors that help make your engine go?
Yeah, so we are a for-profit business. We're not a nonprofit. So we are self-sufficient in that way. We have, like I said, most of our business coming from residential, commercial, and then our soil sales. It's about an even split between the three of them of how we keep the doors open at Rust Belt Riders.
Great.
Yeah.
Which, and I've been a subscriber for a while, so it's a great service. And I just wanted to say I'm super thrilled that we're doing this. And Jeff and Brian and Amy, thank you so much for getting this up and running. I'm really excited. And Amy, good luck. We're gonna be so good luck with it.
Brian and Amy have really taken this and run with it. They've done a great job.
It's exciting. We're the first school district partnering with you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many, like in our Broadview Heights area, how many subscribers you have? If you don't know,
Well,
it's
we
okay.
don't have a pickup program yet in your area. And so if anyone is using our services, they're driving probably
Oh.
to the nature center at this point, which was it's been a pretty recent
Oh, okay.
drop off site. So I would say that we're probably in the 75 range of subscribers in the area.
I've been taking mine down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I worked down there, so.
Okay. Now you won't have to.
Any other comments or questions? Great.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Exciting.
my pleasure. Thank you all.
Thanks. All right, we are going to move on to item 6, treasurer's announcements. Turn it over to Craig.
I don't have anything today. I'm trying to beat Jeff over here on time. So no, I don't have anything today.
All right, you win then.
Win.
All right, item 7, community communications. Item A, hearing of the public. Do we have anybody?
No.
Okay.
You have to sign up.
Oh, yes, you do. But we can slide you in.
If
If
you fill it out
you wanna-
afterwards, you want to speak.
Yeah, why
fill it
don't you fill out
afterwards.
and then you can do it afterwards. Let me read the hearing of the public narrative. Persons wishing to address the Board of Education may do so at this point. No formal action will be taken on subjects that are not included on this agenda until the board has had an opportunity to study them. Comments regarding personnel must be submitted in writing through the office of the superintendent in order for the board to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient manner and to provide sufficient opportunities for members of the public to be heard. Hearing of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 60 minutes, during which each speaker will be limited to a minute maximum of 3 minutes. So I'll put my timer on, and if you hear it beeping, then kind of wrap it up. Yep, you can go up to the thing. Start with your name and your address.
Yes, hello, I'm Brett Mills. I'm a resident at 10175 Old Orchard in Brecksville. And I'm here today kind of as a last ditch effort to try to convince the board to accept an exchange student we're trying to get at the high school. I just notified the principal earlier in the week and the superintendent Jeffrey that we had been working to get an exchange student here at the high school, only to be told that the school only accepts one high school student, foreign exchange student a year, and that it has to be started very early on in the springtime, and that it is first come, first serve as well, which was all kind of news to me. This is my first time doing this. And during this whole process, I never thought that the hardest part would be convincing the school district to accept the foreign exchange student, but here we are. So from what I understand through the program where we're trying to host through, there is still time to accept the exchange student, but and they've done clearly a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm not sure what's required from the board or from the superintendent or principal, but I understand that we do accept exchange students, and then it's recommended that we accept, the Department of Education recommends 1% of the school population. In this case, probably the high school. I don't think you need foreign exchange students in the elementary school. So in this case, it would still be like 4 or 5 students. So it kind of surprised me that I guess we typically only host 1. And so I'd like to just have the board or people consider hosting more than 1 student. And if you've ever traveled or lived overseas as well, it's there's a lot of cultural shock going on and homesickness. And it kind of is concerning to think we only have 1 student going through that by themselves. And I would urge them to consider having more than 1 student going forward, because I'm interested, maybe this year is too late, but our family's interested in doing this in future years. And I don't want to compete with the other families, single family, the whole district trying to get the student. And then to consider how they can commiserate more than 1 student going through the process, I think would be healthy for the students. And of course, the school itself having more representatives from other societies and cultures, I think would only be a benefit to the school district. So I'm here today. It's a long shot. I don't know if anything can come of it, but from what I understand, it can still happen. And but I don't know. Obviously, I'm new. I don't know what's required on your end, but through the program is called Green Heart Exchange, who I've been working with. There's a coordinator. I can give you the name and contact information as well as the student themselves. And from what I understand, they have all the visa and everything filled out. They're ready to go. So.
Well, thank you for your comments. Perhaps you can connect with our superintendent or principal offline and have additional conversation on that topic.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 8, superintendent's other business. Item A, resolve to approve the Cleveland State University Schools Psychology Program Memorandum of Agreement for Internship as attached. Item B, resolve to approve the composting proposal for the 2024-2025 school year as attached. Item C, resolve to approve the 2024-2025 school meal price recommendations. Item D, resolve to approve BBHCSD class of 24 early graduate Ella Popilski. Item E, item E, resolve to approve BBH High School AP Biology OSU Stone Lab trip date revisions as attached. Item F, resolve to approve the attached resolution declaring transportation impractical for the 2024-2025 school year. Item G, resolve to approve 2024-2025 bus routes as attached. Item H, resolve to approve superintendent's other business items A through G. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Maybe you can walk us through and
Yeah.
correct my pronunciation of that
That's okay.
for students. Okay.
First one is just an agreement with CSU to host a school psychologist intern, which I met yesterday. So she's from Cleveland State and will be working both at the middle school and high school. Obviously, the composting proposal acceptance that Russell Writers presented to us, and you can see right outside the door here, the corral or the bins are there. So they're here, and then obviously in the parking lot of the elementary as well. And so we're looking forward to that. Next is school meal price recommendations. Those are the same level or same price as last year. And Amy is here with us this evening, so she's hearing this for the very first time. But I did have a board member say, you know, it might be nice to hear from our food service department. So maybe next month in September or October, I'm going to ask Amy to kind of present the school lunch program or meal program. They do great work. And are highly dedicated in serving very nutritious and warm food to our students. So we'll hear a little bit more about that in coming months. But this is just approving the meal prices for this year. We do have an early graduate / early / late, I guess you'd say. It was pending completion of some summer CCP coursework, which she has completed. So she will be added to the 2020 class of 2024 with this recommendation. AP Biology, we had already approved this trip. This is a trip that our AP Biology class takes up to South Bass Island, Ohio State University's branch up there, or laboratories. And it's a great trip that they take each and every year. This is just simply a change in date. So they had a conflict, so they had to change the date. Payment in lieu of transportation. These are students in our school district who qualify for transportation, and we are not transporting them by our school bus. So the option is then, if we're not going to transport them via school bus, then we will pay in lieu of. So this is families that are listed here are ones that have come in since the last time we've done this. And then our bus routes for 24-25. These are our bus routes. They will be tweaked from time to time. Timings will be different, but these are our general routes. Just in summary, we were able to reduce one route this year. So we have one less route this year than we had last year. So a lot of hard work from our transportation department to get these routes done. It's another step that they had to take this year when we had the transition to Power School and getting all the student data in. Then it goes over to the transportation software. So they were really burning the midnight oil to make sure that they got their bus routes ready for today for our students. So that is all the business listed. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
I just want to say congrats to Ella.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
She's not here. She's already at the University of Penn.
Okay.
She's her sister.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. And how do you pronounce your last name? Popielski. Okay.
I was
My
trying.
apologies. They kind of threw me with the name right in the middle of the agenda item.
Thank to the counseling staff at the high school. Ella went to visit colleges her junior year, found her dream place, and the counseling staff worked with us to make it happen. So
Awesome.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Great. Yeah, congrats.
Congratulations. Wonderful start.
Hope she has a great year.
Any other comments or questions on the agenda items?
I just have, I just wanted to mention about the school meal prices, and I know this is like tangential to that, but I know people mention about fees. So I just wanted to make sure that people know, like, when you put money on your lunch account, things like that, you don't have to do it through Pay Schools. You can send a check in to school and you can do that fee free. So I just wanted to make sure that people know that, because I know, like, you have to put money on the lunch account if you want to pay for school lunch, but you don't have to go through Pay Schools. You can send a check in to school. And the same paying any fee, right, Craig?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And then
Or
we also,
paying any, yeah. Any.
yeah, no, we also found out this year too, I think was that just the middle school we did that with? Amy, so when they come in for the middle school and they pay their fees on campus, they found out that you can also pay, you can put money in your lunch account at that point too, and still use the card or whatever, and still not have to necessarily incur a fee if it's on site. So there's different options available.
Oh, you can pay with credit card on site?
You
without-
can, yeah.
then-
So the middle school has been doing that for a while. They do like a night almost where they will do that if you do pay in person. It's just that it's not as convenient to pay in person. So
Right.
the ones on site don't have a fee,
Okay.
We do accept cash as well, cash. or
and
check.
cash as well, yeah.
Okay.
You just ask that it's clearly labeled with the student's name, and then it's for their lunch account. We get
Okay.
some that come for school fees, and
So-
have to do some investigating there, so.
So cash or check, but
Cash or check.
don't just send cash in an envelope with no note.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take it, we just don't know who to apply it to.
Yes.
And while we are talking about fees though, too, just for a differentiation and a reminder too, is that if you do pay them online, 'cause sometimes I do get a couple things every year where they feel like they got double charged. It's a little bit different. Pay Schools on the fee side versus the lunch side, they treat them as two separate merchants. So if you go online and you do pay like with an ACH and say like, I want to put $100 on the lunch account, I want to pay my student fees, it's two transaction fees because they're considered separate merchants.
Okay.
So just to clarify, I've had a couple people, they think they got charged twice, but it's because it was a lunch edition as well as a fee edition. So there's a bunch of options, and if they have questions, they can, the buildings are pretty good at answering those questions too at this point.
And maybe this is a silly question, but for the buses, are we busing everyone now, or are there some students we're not busing. I'm sorry.
What,
Is that?
I believe we're
No, like,
busing within
no,
board
yeah, no, we're
policy.
busing.
Board policy, which is outside of what the board policy, what's radius?
So just at the middle school and high school, there's like a radius that we're.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because we updated that policy 2 years ago. It was when we started the elementary, right before we went to the elementary school. Yep, right. It's been, well, yeah, over 2 years ago. Yeah, because it's our third year. So we're following board policy. I believe
Okay.
is the answer.
It's always great to follow board policy.
It's a plus. It doesn't work out well when you're not following it and called out on it.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes. Item passes 5-0. Congratulations. Before we move on to our,
Please.
before we move on to our next item, if anybody in the audience wishes to leave and not stay for the rest of the meeting, we won't be offended. But we will move on to item 9, superintendent's personnel recommendations. Item A, resolve to approve certified personnel recommendations. Item B, resolve to approve classified personnel recommendations. Item C, resolve to approve superintendent's consent items A to B. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, certified, shortest list of the whole year. We have only one recommendation here, and that's Michelle Bohr, who was our school psychologist who retired, and she's the lone rehire that we needed to institute for this year because we were not able to find a part-time school psychologist, and she was willing to do it. So we're very thankful for that. It also helps with the caseload, workload for our current school psychs. So that's good. The other 2 items on there are just renewals of certification for OPES and OTES. Classified, on the other hand, we have quite a few recommendations. A lot of our educational assistants, custodian, food service workers, assistant healthcare coordinator. So Brian and our HR department, as well as our other departments, have been busy filling our positions to start the school year.
Okay, any comments or questions? No, roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Moving on to item E, resolve to approve supplemental personnel recommendations. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Here, just many high school positions, Mr. Jacobs sent over for approval of different supplemental positions. On here, you will see some coaching, some spring play, musicals, as well as our department chair people or persons at the high school are listed there. And then at the very end are the high school clubs that are supervised by volunteers. So just a special thank you and shout out to those individuals who are volunteering their time to make those clubs possible for our students.
Any comments or questions? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer.
Yeah.
Ms. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Moving on to item 10, treasurer's consent agenda. Item A, resolve to approve the financial report as attached. Item B, resolve to approve the attached annual reporting of commercial paper ORC 135.142C. Sorry. Item C, resolve to approve fund-to-fund transfers as attached. Item D, resolve to approve the 2024-2025 statement of work for a security consulting engagement as attached. Item E, resolve to accept donations as presented. Item F, resolve to approve the minutes from July 17th, 2024 regular board meeting as attached. Item G, resolve to approve treasurer's consent items A through F. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Craig.
Well, Amy has not been here for a board meeting, so I thought we should start with
The check
the
register.
check register. Perfect. Yeah. Thought it would be a good idea. Takes a while, Amy, so. I know, we cleared the room.
It's a heavy conversation on something.
Don't worry, Amy, I'll go quickly. So here's our financial situation for the month of July. We brought in about $4.2 million. $3.4 million purple those are the actual numbers. So the rest of this is all projections as we start the fiscal year. $392,000 in state aid, 86,000, sorry. That is a little inflated, as I recall, if you recall from the last meeting, that was our threshold cost additional payment. I believe it was about $60,000. It came in fiscal 25 and it should have been in fiscal 24. We don't really know where it came from, but I'll take it. So $4.2 million in revenue. And then at the bottom, we see our expenditures, $2.2 million in salaries, benefits at $1 million, $771,000 in purchase services, $180,000 in supplies, and $28,000 in capital assets or capital outlay, sorry. Other objects at $47,000, so for a total of $4.2 million. So we basically almost broke even for the month. And then I will scroll over to the right. I pulled over the new forecast for fiscal, I have to change that, fiscal 25. But that is from the, it is from the May forecast of 25, but this is for fiscal 25. So I had to move the column over from the May forecast. That is correct. And then that is our comparison. Looks like right now we should do a little bit better on the revenue side than projected. This will obviously get updated in November. And then on the expenditure side, it would show a $257,000 deficit. 267, sorry. So far away. $267,000 deficit compared to a deficit of $1.3 million. That is where we are today. When we compare those expenditures to the prior year, so this is last July versus this July. Last July is in blue, this July is in red. It is higher in terms of expenditures, and the reason why is that salaries were slightly less year over year, while benefits were slightly higher. But purchase services were almost $350,000 more this year due to the increased cost of insurance. That was a pretty good chunk. Legal bills, and part of that is that we were finishing up some of our negotiation bills that we finished in the spring in terms of when they were billed and paid. And timing of how we pay our ITC. So that's a really big bill that we paid. We paid $210,000 for our agreements with Connect for internet and all kinds of other services that we have between Power School, and we're actually technically this year finishing off our payments with Progress Book and things like that. So some of that's timing. We used to pay that bill quarterly, and now we're paying it in a different segment. So while it is a larger amount this month compared to last year, it should even out later. So a lot of it's timing related.
Right here, that when you say increased cost of insurance.
Property insurance.
Oh, property
The
insurance.
property insurance that we talked about in June. Yeah. That was about, I think it was $30,000, $40,000 more than it was last year. And that always hits in July. On the revenue side, $4.2 million brought in. Last year was less. Some of that is the timing that we had from the real estate settlement and the advance, as well as that additional $60,000 in threshold costs. Miscellaneous revenue was just slightly higher by $39,000. There is your recap, favorable so far in revenues and expenditures. And then when we compare the fiscal year to date, it's really the same data because it's only 1 month. So those are the same numbers that you see elsewhere. Any questions? Okay. Commercial reporting. This is an annual reporting requirement by Ohio Revised Code 135.142. It does disclose that we own as a district commercial paper and bankers acceptance reports. This is required. It already was sent to the Auditor of State's office, as well as the Department of Education and Workforce as required by that Ohio Revised Code. So this is your approval of the fact that we do own commercial paper for investment purposes. Transfer requests. These are the transfers requested. I will pull that up so you can see the various things. I do try to do these as few times as possible. So we do have 50,000 going to turf, our annual contribution to Kappa for 25,000, the $10,000 Blossom Fieldhouse contribution for the shared services use agreement with the city of Brecksville, and then 100,000 moving into the 035 fund for termination benefits. The last piece of this, well, not the last piece, I guess, is we have engaged with Zenex through our partnership with EduTech for some cybersecurity products and a suite of products that we will be engaging with this year, as well as some additional things will be coming next month. As you've seen headlines in the newspapers and online about schools and public entities, the city of Columbus has been attacked, Ohio School Boards has been attacked, some other local school districts. We are ramping up efforts in the cybersecurity world. So that will help give us some protections there. We do have a donation for $1,000 to the soccer team. And then lastly, the minutes, which thank you, Lisa, for noticing. We are now going to include a meeting summary at the end of our meeting minutes to kind of summarize and encapsulate the discussions that have happened in addition to what we have been already bringing in from board docs. Any questions for me?
Can you refresh my memory? That turf, the 50,000, we're doing that annually, correct?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, I just want to make sure it was.
And we're
remembered.
getting, we're probably a year or two out. So we're getting pretty close. We're going to be planning for new turf.
Okay.
Is the plan.
Any other comments or questions?
Just have a funny comment that you mentioned the security breach at OSBA, and I got an email from them. And I read it as OSBA networking brunch, but it said OSBA network breach. And I opened it immediately. I was like, oh, a brunch. And the tone was very serious for a brunch.
This one.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting invited to a brunch.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we are reaching out to you with a matter of very serious concern. Doesn't sound like a fun brunch.
No, it was not a fun brunch for them, I'm sure.
No, it wasn't. So yes, that's a very serious issue. And we're taking care of it on our end.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yeah.
Mrs. Kramer, Ms. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item 11, executive session, item A. Scroll up a little.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Resolve to enter into executive session for the consideration of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official per Ohio Revised Code 121.22, item A. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yeah.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, we will now be in executive session. When we come out of executive session, we will just adjourn the meeting, so no other business will be conducted. So we'll see you back online after our executive session to close out the meeting. Thank you.
Mrs. Kramer.
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yeah.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, we are now out of executive session. Moving on to item 12. Item 12, closing items, item A, announcements. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled for September 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Item B, resolve to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion.
So moved.
second,
Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, the meeting is adjourned. Everyone have a great evening. Thanks.